Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is going to be Last Year in Review. This is a monthly series where I look at a year ago, or the full month a year ago, in this case September of 2020, looking at the games I reviewed, the games I played, and going through the various ratings I have for them, whether or not they have or haven't changed. Now, these will be broken up, timestamps down below, you can check the various sections. First section is going to be all the reviews that first section is going to be games I haven't even played since I last reviewed them, covered them, whatever. Second section is going to be reviews that haven't changed. Third section is going to be the reviews that have changed. It doesn't always mean it's changed by a full point score, but in some way my thought or opinion around the game have slightly shifted. And the last section is just going to be a quick recap of games I've played and whether I'm still playing them or not. Again, all that will be timestamped down below so you can check out any individual section. Now, let's go ahead and start this off. This is going to be a long enough video as is, so for the most part, there's going to be very minimal information about the game, especially for when nothing really has changed about the game, so I'm not going to be overly going into each thing. And to start us off, the first section, all the games I haven't even played in the past year, most of the time because there was a prototype or left my collection, meaning I rated it, wasn't for me, moved on, or was a good game, but I have a lot of good games and I didn't keep it, so in some way or another, I haven't played them again. That's going to be 7th Citadel, which I gave a 5 out of 5. I really enjoy 7th Citadel. I think it's a better version of 7th Continent, but the new game isn't here yet, so I haven't played it since I covered it. We have Allegory. Allegory is going to be part of a 3-part set, Enchanted Plumes, Mass Transit, and Allegory. Allegory was one that I didn't love. I give it a 2 out of 5 from there. It was my least favorite of the 3. Then we have Endless Winter, a game that I give a 5 out of 5. One of my favorite games that I played in 2020, I want to say. Endless Winter is going to be hopefully delivering soon, but I haven't played it since I covered it. We have Freedom 5. Freedom 5 is going to be the Sentinels of the Multiverse giant superhero on a board from Arcane Wonders. Solid game. I give it a 4 to 5. Many aspects of the game I really loved. Some aspects of the game I thought were a little fiddly. Haven't played it since then because prototype and it's moved on. We have Galaxy Hunters. Galaxy Hunters one I gave a 2 out of 5. I really did not love Galaxy Hunters. I can see the game system behind it and why people loved it, but it wasn't really a game that I enjoyed. I thought it was too much work for not enough return, and some things about it were a little too fiddly, but it's one that I haven't played since then because, well, first of all, prototype, and second of all, is I did not back it. Then we have Illusion. Illusion is a game I gave a 3 out of 5. Illusion is going to be a small little card game. I don't have it here because I got rid of it. Illusion was a game that was good for like 4 or 5 plays for me. Really enjoyed it. Well, really enjoyed its relative. 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it, but I found it to be more gimmicky than actually fun, and not a gimmick that I wanted to dive back into again and again. Then we have Mass Transit, which I haven't played. It's over. Nope, Mass Transit's not here. Never mind. We have Mass Transit, was going to be part of that Allegory, Enchanted Plumes, and Mass Transit series. And I haven't played it again because it only just arrived. Well, this past week is when I finally got my copy. Really enjoyed that one, though. I gave it a 4 to 5. Wait, it was a 4 to 5 or 3? It might have been a 3 out of 5. I think probably a 3 out of 5, just thinking through it. But either way, Mass Transit was a game. It's a little puzzle. Can be played solo, can be played as a team. Cooperative puzzle as you try to survive. I really enjoyed it, but didn't come back until just now, so I haven't played it. We have Pipeline from Capstone Games, so I gave it 2 out of 5. I might have been too harsh on that one. It might have been a 3 out of 5. It's one of those weird things where this is a different video I have planned coming up, but the nature that I tend to be harder on heavier games. Pipeline's a solid game, but it's not one that I want to go back to. It was not a puzzle that I enjoyed. It's a puzzle that I can appreciate why others enjoy it. I just found it to be not rewarding enough, or not variable enough either, for the heaviness that it was giving me. It just wasn't worth that effort. But I haven't played it since because I, well, got rid of it after my review. Shadow Network was going to be a game that I haven't played because, well, it was a Kickstarter game. I don't believe it's delivered yet. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it, but not enough to back it. Tellstones is a game that I didn't even buy or get so much as put together a fake version of it, because you can easily do so, because Tellstone is almost a gimmick in a board game. I give it a 2 out of 5. It's more of a bluffing experience that wasn't particularly rewarding, not a game I enjoyed or wanted to play again. We have Townsfolk Tussle, which is a game I gave a 4 to 5. Townsfolk Tussle is going to be a Kickstarter game that has not delivered, so I haven't played it, but overall really enjoyed it when it's amazing it's been a year since then. It's amazing how time flies. And then finally, Twisted Fables is going to be a game I gave a 3 out of 5. I liked it, not enough to back it, so I haven't played it since. I believe it finally just started delivering to backers, but I didn't back it, and well, yeah, 3 out of 5 for me. Overall enjoyed it, but that. Then from there, we're going to move on to games where the ratings haven't changed. These are going to be games that I have played since then, because I still own them in one way, shape, or form, but the ratings have not changed. My experience with them has not adjusted, pivoted for better or for worse. There's only 4 in this category. There's going to be Herbaceous. Herbaceous, which I didn't grab, but could have. Herbaceous is going to be a small game from Pencil First Games. A little bit of a set collection kind of game. A little bit of a puzzle that I enjoyed. Rena enjoys it more than I do. For me, it's a 3 out of 5. She enjoys the theme. I just enjoy the mechanics. And for me, there's other games that give me similar mechanics, even from Pencil First themselves. But I enjoyed it. 3 out of 5. Still fun. Still not one that I need myself. Then we have Super Fantasy Brawl, which is up behind me over there. That's going to be a 5 out of 5. I still really enjoy Super Fantasy Brawl. I don't know, this is one of those tricky parts. I wasn't giving games official ratings back when I covered some of these games, so I'm kind of extrapolating what I thought I would have given at the time. Super Fantasy Brawl is a tough one because it does range very much back and forth in that 4 versus 5 category. I think it does end up as a 5. While the experience is not necessarily as deep as I would potentially like, it is a lot of fun for what it does do, and it does give me variability and card play and just a ton of fun in terms of what it's doing, and a lot of strategy mixed in as well. There's definitely some luck in it as you go through which cards you draw, how it correlates with the various characters, which trophies come out. There's a lot of luck in the game at the same time. But there's a lot of strategy, a lot of mitigation, and a lot of fun. It's easy to pick up and jump into it without having to know the entire character or cast of crew. It's a game that I have continued to play since reviewing it, and it's still a 5 out of 5 for me. I don't pull it out as much as I would like. Most of that's because I'm busy playing and reviewing other games, so I have to balance what gets to the table. But I have continued to play it, I still like it a lot, and still a 5 out of 5. We have Tactiki. Tactiki is going to be a game that is a 3 out of 5 for me. Tactiki was an abstract game from Draw Labs Entertainment, Draw Lab Games, and it's one that I did have a prototype, but I still dove back into it even after reviewing it. It's a game that I happen to still have the prototype. I don't know if I still do now. I'd have to check, but either way, whether I do now or not, it's a game that I did dive back into the prototype even after reviewing it because it was a simple, fun little abstract game that was fun. And so it's going into the section of, you know, the review hasn't changed because I have played it since the review. Then we have Enchanted Plumes. Enchanted Plumes is going to be over here. That's the 3rd of the series of Mass Transit, Allegory, and Enchanted Plumes, and by far our favorite. Like I said already, we just got the series. I just got the Mass Transit and Enchanted Plumes this past week, and I've already played Enchanted Plumes since then. I've already pulled it out because we were happy to have it arrive. It's one that we liked when we had it. It's a fun little puzzly game of laying out your, well, plumes. You're trying to take cards from what's called the train, and you're going to be laying them down into these patterns to try to build out your peacocks and build out as high of a almost like a reverse pyramid, so to speak. That's what the plume is going to be, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in terms of the card rows. The further you can build out, the more points you can get, but you want to be careful because you get negative points for the first row, but you also get positive points for finishing the whole thing. So you're kind of incentivized to go as large as you can, which will give you as many points on the tail end, pun almost, but a little fun little challenge and a lot of fun to actually dive into. It falls very much in the vein of games like Colorado, of games like No Thanks, of small little fun little card games that pack a decent strategic punch. That's going to be Enchanted Plumes, still a 4 to 5, no change there yet. Now we're going to move into the handful of games that have changed. Now, these aren't going to be major changes, to be clear. In fact, not a single one of these have changed a full number grade. My rating scale, for context, usually down in the description down below, but 1s are games that I think are bad games. I think they're bad for me. I think they're bad for you. 2s are games that are just not for me. Usually, I can often see why it's a game for somebody else, but I don't want to play it. I'd prefer to find something else to do instead of playing a 2. 3s are good games. 4s, well, 4s are actually easier to come back to. 5s are going to be great games. So we have 3s are good games, 5s are great games, and 4s are great games that have some sort of critique that meaningfully detracted from the experience. So a 4 is generally a 5, but something about it is not enough, or whatever that might be. It might even be as simple as accessibility. It might be the rules are too complicated, asymmetric factions, but in some way it detracts from my ability to play it and or enjoy it the same way I would another 5. The reason I say that is because my rating scale does, even though a game might change, it may not change a full number grade. And that's true for all of these games. And to begin with, we have Machina Arcana. Machina Arcana, which is over here, is a game that gave a 5 out of 5. Now, it's a game that gave a 5 out of 5, but I haven't played it since reviewing it. That's not entirely true. I played it like one time after reviewing it, but then since then, I haven't played it. It's been a while since I dove into Machina Arcana. It's a dungeon crawler with a bit of a steampunk theme, and it's one that is incredibly solid at what it's doing. It's incredibly fun and tactical and hard. It is brutal to survive as you are being chased down and have to like just outlast your enemy chasing you. A cooperative experience. You can play it solo as well. I really, really like it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was completely not on my radar. The publisher reached out to me to cover the game, and I played it and really, really, really liked it. But I haven't played it since. And even though I do have the excuse to a degree that right now, I'm still juggling lots of things. I'm still juggling a day job, my family, all these other factors while reviewing more games, which means it used to be my prior ratio back in the day before I did reviewing for, well, this, before I did this channel, was I played about 80% of my plays were older games and 20% of my plays were newer games. Yes, I love Cult of the New, I always have, but most of my plays were older games because I love the games that I love. And that certainly shifted since post-content creation. Now I'd say, I'd have to check my stats, but it's probably closer to around 50-50. Probably about half my plays are new games that I'm playing to cover, either from personal desire because I just want to pull it out and play a new game, or for the channel itself, for Kickstarter, games or review games, whatever it is. But only about 50% of my plays are older games that I love, which means I have played some of my favorite games less than I would otherwise like to, at least while I still try to balance and figure out where my life is going while I do this. But that said, I still haven't pulled up Machina Arcana. Excuses or not, Machina Arcana it's getting close to the point where I may have to downgrade it to a 4, which is a weird balance, but the question is, do I downgrade a game that's a 5 out of 5 if I don't play it in 2 years, let's say? Does it happen? Does it take away from the experience? And I think it has to. As long as I'm still playing other games that I know and love, as long as I'm playing games from my collection that I really enjoy, the question and context as to why I don't pull up Machina Arcana is a question that's begging to be answered. So it hasn't changed from its 5 out of 5, but it's also a game I haven't pulled out. If accessibility is a factor, then accessibility is a factor, so I'll have to figure out where it lies, but it's worth noting that even though I gave it a 5 out of 5, I haven't played it, and that's not usual for me when I give games 5s. Usually when I give a game 5, it's because I really, really like it, and usually when I really, really like it, I make time for it. That happens to have not been true for this one, but we'll see how things play out with it. Then from there we have Project L. Project L is going to be over here. Now this is one that's not really a significant change. In fact, it's a change that I called out in my review. Project L was a 4 to 5, and it's still a 4 to 5, but it's a 4 that's drifting towards a 3. I'm hoping the expansion changes that and adds new life back to the game. You see, Project L was a game that even when I reviewed it, I called out the possibility that it would feel samey the more you played it. Not a lot shifts up the experience game to game. It's a polyomino engine building experience where you're basically, it's not really a polyomino game. It happens to have a polyomino game in, but it's really an engine builder where you have actions that will get stronger as you build out your little grid and you cash in multiple tiles because you're earning these polyomino pieces that can be put towards multiple puzzles at the same time. So the better polyomino pieces you earn, the faster you earn them, the better you build up your engine, which happens to be a polyomino game at the same time. I really like Project L. I liked it a lot when I first played it. It's a lot of fun. It has these little chiclet pieces that are very appealing to gamers and non-gamers alike. It's a fun game to pull people into the table and say, hey, come join us, look what we're doing. It's easy to teach, it's easy to play, it's rewarding in what it's doing. And it's also the same game every single time I play it, which again, I called out in my initial review, but I'm saying that yes, a year has gone by, and in that year, we've played it less and less. We still pull it out, but not as frequently as used to, because it often feels like the same game. So I often need time to be the factor as to why I'll pull out Project L again. Still a 4 to 5, but one that over time may shrink to a 3. Sometimes games for me do shrink down a letter grade, as a number grade, as I play them more and more, and as my experience pivots around them. So we'll see. There's an expansion coming, I know that, so that may breathe new life into it. But yeah, Project L, still a 4, but a 4 on the edge of being a 4. So we have a 5 that's on the edge of being a 5, a 4 that's on the edge of being a 4, and from there we have Qwinto. Qwinto is a game that has left my collection, which is why I'm talking about it here. Qwinto is a game that I gave a 3 out of 5, well, a year ago, that's why we're talking about it. It's a game that I enjoyed, and at the time I said I don't know if it has long legs in my collection. It stuck around for a while. We played it a few times since then, and it did move on. I like Qwinto. Qwinto's gonna be a roll and write game. I think Pandasaurus is the current publisher for it. A little handy-dandy roll and write, but one that just isn't rewarding enough. I found that some of these roll and write games, in fact the next game, let's just combine them together, Silver and Gold. Silver and Gold was a game that I believe I initially gave it a 4. I really enjoyed Silver and Gold, but Silver and Gold and Qwinto, while I enjoyed both of them, they both have slowly gone down as time has gone on, and both of them have left my collection. I like them both. I recommend Silver and Gold a lot more than I recommend Qwinto. Qwinto is I think a 3, Silver and Gold is a 4. Both are solid, both are enjoyable, one more so than the other for me, but both of them over time have left my collection once I've played them out, so to speak. The roll and writes keep coming out. New roll and writes enter the market every single month. I was going to say every single year, but every single month we get new roll and write games, and I tend to like exploring them. And that does mean the ones that give me the most rewarding experiences, the best bang for your buck on playtime and accessibility, teaching others, jumping in, the strategy, all those things, those are the ones that outlast. Qwinto was good, but never great. Silver and Gold was great, but also very samey and didn't mix up the experience, which is why that one left. And those are going to be, oh wait, no, we got two more. I'm just almost skipping sections here. Then we have the game. The game is going to be this one over here, another game by Pandasaurus. A whole bunch of these made it. That wasn't planned. Happened to review a bunch of Pandasaurus games in a video, so we're talking about them a year later. The game hasn't changed significantly. The game, at the time, I gave it 3 out of 5. I still give it a 3 out of 5. The game is a game where you're playing, you have 4 different rows, and you're trying to get the rows to either go in ascending or descending order as you play cards together with your teammates, trying to manage and balance the rows that you have and how you can jump back and skip back, basically multiples of 10, not getting into how the game plays. And that's one of the problems with it, by the way. When you say how the game plays, you could be talking about any game on this table. I happen to be talking about how the game plays. But either way, it's a silly name for a game. The Dice Tower crew just put out a video recently about top 10 like stupid names for games, and I believe the game was like on all their lists because it should be. It's impossible to search for. It's impossible to talk about it without confusing people. So either way, not the point. The point is, I enjoyed the game, and it's still staying in my collection for right now. But it's one that I definitely, I think it's been replaced to a degree by a game called Tranquility. Tranquility is a game that I've played recently. Maybe we'll review it on the channel soon, I don't know for sure. But I really, really enjoy Tranquility. In fact, we recently backed Tranquility the Ascent because I really, really, really enjoy Tranquility. And the game is just an inferior version of Tranquility to me. But the game does give me a slightly different experience. I thought after playing Tranquility that I'd get rid of the game. I dove back into the game for one more game. Again, it's impossible to talk about this. I dove back into... let's just say this. I dove back into this to get one more game of this before getting rid of it, and we still liked it. So I was like, I'll still keep it for now. We'll hold on to this for now, even though we enjoy Tranquility more than we enjoy this, but still a 3 out of 5, one that may leave at any point. The day that comes by where I no longer feel the need to pull it out is the day that it leaves, but we'll see what happens or when or if or all of that. And then lastly, we have The Mind. The Mind, another game by, I believe Pandasaurus does this as well. Pandasaurus has gotten like all 5 of the games in this video, for better and for worse. But The Mind is going to be a game, not the game, a game, that is more of a gimmick than a game. In fact, similar to the way Tellstones was a gimmick, but The Mind is also a gimmick. The difference between the two is I enjoy The Mind and I did not enjoy Tellstones. But The Mind is going to be a game where you hold up cards and you're basically holding these cards, your set of cards between 1 and 12 depending on the round you're in. Let's say you start off with, let's say you're in round 3 and you have 3 cards and you have 3 cards. The goal of the game is to play the cards in ascending order without communicating. The communication you have is effectively pausing. If a 17 is my lowest card, the cards are 0 through 100, and if a 72 is your lowest card, you're probably going to be waiting longer than me. So if I wait long enough and you're not playing, eventually I'm like 17 and I play it, and either you're like, oh no, I had a 16, which why did you wait that long? Alternatively, you have a 72 and then we keep going. So you're reading the pauses of the other players. I really enjoy it. Anyone who doesn't like The Mind, I completely get it. It's a gimmick. It's a pure gimmick of a game. But it's a gimmick that I happen to enjoy, and people in my group, most of the people, Crackle not so much, most of the people in my group tend to enjoy The Mind and like playing it. But the problem with The Mind, the reason it's here is even though it was and is a 4, yes, a 4, I really, really like The Mind. It's a gimmick, 100%, but I really like it. But even though it was and is a 4, every time I have fully gotten to the end, every time I have fully won The Mind, which I've done like 3 or 4 times now, my desire to jump in lessens. Because The Mind is so challenging in what it's doing that winning it almost takes away from your reasons to dive back in. I've won it at 2, 3, and 4 players, and now what? Do I just keep pulling it out? So it's still here for now. It's still a kind of drunken, late at night, not drunken, I don't really drink that much, but like a late at night when we're all slap happy tired. It's the kind of game that I'll pull out to try to play when we just want to get one more round in, then we'll play it for an hour and a half. I really like it. I could see it leaving at any point. There might come a day where I'm no longer pulled in by the challenge of what The Mind does, so we'll see how things go. But again, those are just more general thoughts on how some of these games, 6 or so of these games, have sort of changed, not changed number grades, but have slightly pivoted in the way I view them over the past year. And from there, we're going to dive into not reviews so much as just the games I played last year in September. So these are going to just be a quick rattling down of a bunch of the games. I don't take every single game for this list, to be very clear. Anything I already talked about in terms of the reviews that we just did, I don't talk about. And I don't always grab everything. It's more just trying to go through as many as possible. I play a lot of games. I don't want this video to be, well, too long. So from there, let's go ahead and start going to games I played. Just quick, short thoughts on them. Not really going into what they are. Just do I still play them? Do I not? Why or why not? And just off the bat, we have Kemet. I still play Kemet. Kemet, I've played the original, and I've played Blood and Sand in the past year. For the purpose of this discussion, I'm looping them in as one entity, but both Kemet and Blood and Sand I've continued to play. I should review Blood and Sand. I probably should. I haven't actually reviewed Kemet ever, so I probably should get a review in of Blood and Sand. I do have thoughts about it compared to Kemet. There are aspects of each that I prefer. Overall, I do prefer Blood and Sand, so we'll see how that goes. But I still play Kemet. Still a solid game. Really enjoy it. It'll keep showing up in my top 50 of all time because it's a really, really good game. We have Stockpile. Stockpile, which isn't on this list, isn't on the table over here. Stockpile is going to be a game from Nauvoo Games. Really enjoy that one. Comes with a whole bunch of modules. We've still played it. We don't play it as much as we did when we first got it. It is the kind of game that might leave my collection at some point. But for right now, it still fits a very specific slot of, good at 4 and 5 players, okay at 3, and one that's good for, a 45-minute game when it's late at night and we just want to get one more game in to wrap up the night. So I really enjoy Stockpile. For right now, I think it's a 3. Some of the modules could push it to a 4, but I haven't played with all the modules, so that's part of one of the reasons I don't want to get rid of it just yet. We have Ethnos, which is another game that plays in a 45 to 60-minute slot, good with 4 to 5 players. I think it's okay with 3. I think I played with 3 once. I don't remember exactly how it went, but it's a game that we still pull out, not as often as I have in a while, but Ethnos was never a game for me that I love playing. Ethnos, like Stockpile, is for when I want a shorter game for 4 to 5 players that we can knock out when we have the time frame. So Ethnos is not about me loving Ethnos. Ethnos is about me enjoying Ethnos and playing it when that time slot opens up. A Few Acres of Snow is a game that has since left my collection. It's a game that I had for a long time when I first got into gaming. Absolutely loved it. Got rid of it at some point because, well, I got rid of it because I was too good at it compared to the people I was playing with. I played it a lot when I first got into gaming, and then anyone else I played it with, I would win. I got it back, played a few times, and moved on from it. I have critiques about it, reasons why I don't love it quite as much. I do like it a lot. It was a really solid game, Martin Wallace design, but it's one that I got it back and then got rid of. El Grande. El Grande is a game that I absolutely adore. I haven't played with any of the expansions or modules. I haven't felt the need to, but El Grande is area control, really incredibly well done area control. It's one that we consistently dive into whenever we have 5 people. I don't really play it at 4. It's okay at 4. It's better with 5. And every time we have 5 players at the table and we want to play a good game, El Grande does get pulled out. Bunny Kingdom, which is somewhere over here. Bunny Kingdom consistently gets pulled out. It continues to be one of Rena's favorite games, and to that end, it hits the table all the time whenever she wants to play. She's like, Bunny Kingdom, Bunny Kingdom. She tries to get all of us to play Bunny Kingdom all the time, which I'm fine with because I really like it. So it continues to hit the table. My favorite game in my collection from Yellow, I'm pretty sure. I'd have to actually look before I say something like that, but I'm pretty sure. Then we have Targi. Targi, which is not here. Targi is going to be a 2-player game that left my collection one time and then I got it back. I can see it leaving again. I don't know. I still do pull it out and play it. It's just, in general, 2-player games are very dependent on... When I think of other games, I think of groups. When I think of 2-player games, I think of who I play that game with, generally. Sometimes it's multiple people, sometimes not. Targi doesn't hit the table as much as I would like, but I really do enjoy it when it does. So I think it's staying for now. It has been played in the past year. I still continue to dive into it, just very infrequently. Then we have Dinosaur Island. Dinosaur Island is a game that I played once and got rid of it. Dinosaur's games is really getting featured a lot here. Dinosaur Island is a game I played once and got rid of it. I didn't not like it. I played it at the time that I was looking at Dinosaur World. I do not like the art and aesthetic of Dinosaur Island, so I got rid of it. I backed Dinosaur World. I'm hoping that is a good game for me. If it has the core DNA of Dinosaur Island, pun intended, then I probably will like it and probably will keep it. I think it looks much better. But it may or may not be one I keep or not. I don't know. I'm not emotionally attached to these games. I either like them enough to keep them or I don't. But Dinosaur Island I played once and moved on from. Quirky Circuits. I got this one, played like 6 or 7 games, and I've been meaning to review it for like ever. And I haven't played it since, though. For some reason, something with this game, I think it's just the people I would play it with. It's this weird hybrid of not really being the kind of thing I'd play with my gamer friends alike, but also something I'm not going to play with my kids alike. It's almost this weird hybrid with when Ricky wants to play a game with us, maybe we'll pull out Quirky Circuits. I really like it. I don't think it's the kind of game I keep forever. I think it's the kind of game I go through all the scenarios they have, and I say, that was fun, time to move on from it. But I haven't gone through all the scenarios, so it's still here for now, even though I haven't really played it since, well, November of last year. Then from there, we have 7075 Rebellion. Really solid game. Really like that game. That's one of the few games that I would rate a 4 or higher that I got rid of. And generally games that I rate a 4 stick around for quite some time, although to be fair, 7075 did stick around for years and years before I got rid of it. But a year ago I got playing a year ago, and then sometime in the past year as well, sometime in the intermediate year, I got more plays of it in, and then decided that I was ready to move on from it. I really like parts of it. There are specific complaints and critiques as to why I moved on from it, but it's one that did leave my collection. Then we have Silver. Silver is going to be a little game from Bezier Games that is a little bit of a One Night Ultimate Werewolf kind of vibe, although not really. It's going for something that didn't really land for me. I know they have Silver Amulet and Silver Coin and all these other silver things that may make the experience better, but I didn't feel the need to dive back into it after playing Silver the first time. Then Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg is going to be a game that I really enjoyed. We play Blitzkrieg all the time. Blitzkrieg is a game that consistently hits the table. It's a 2-player game that I enjoy playing with Rena, with Shira. I don't think I've played it with Jesse. I should probably play it with Jesse, but I really like Blitzkrieg. I think I've played it with some other people in my game group. Really solid 2-player experience that really delivers. Lots of fun. I'm looking forward to Caesar by PSC Games, which just seems to be giving you the similar experience, but different. Like, from what I've seen of the games, I think I'm going to actually keep both. And usually when I have similar games, I'm like, one or the other, it's not going to be both. I think this time around, it's probably going to be both. Then we have Through the Ages. Through the Ages, which is a game that I have not played since a year ago. I don't think I've played it since a year ago, unless you count playing the app. The app I still play with real people, with friends in my life. I'll play the app. But Through the Ages from CGE Games is one of my favorite games, but it's also a long experience. It's one that I like playing a 2-player because you can actually knock it out in like 2.5 hours if you play it quickly and efficiently, but at 3 players, it's longer, more rewarding, but is it worth that extra hour for the 3rd player? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's one that I would love to dive into. There are so many good games that I need to play. The longer experiences in my collection from games I love are the ones, like this goes back to Machina Arcana. It's harder to play some of these games. Through the Ages would be a 5, and it's a 5 I don't play as often as I'd like. So it's in the same boat as Machina Arcana. Although we'll see. Maybe I probably shouldn't adjust my ratings down on some of these 5s unless and until I actually get more time back in my life to play these games. But that's gonna be Through the Ages. BraveRats, which is a game I just talked about in this past week in games leaving my collection. BraveRats is great. In the past year, I've played it multiple times. But I also only really play it when I'm trying to introduce someone to a new game or when my daughter wants to play it. I don't really pull it out or suggest it anymore because I've played out the combinations. Really solid game, one that I moved on from. We have Coimbra. Coimbra is over here. Coimbra is still delightful. In the past year, we've still played it multiple times. It's still one of our go-to Euro games. And it's interesting because it's not the highest rated in this genre. In the genre of Italian designers, of Tolkien, of Coimbra, of Townsfolk, of all these games, Coimbra happens to be one of my favorites. Now, granted, I haven't played some of these. I haven't played Townsfolk, I haven't played Takenu. There's a bunch of these games I still haven't played, but from the ones I have, I like Coimbra the most. We, as a group, tend to like Coimbra the most, and it consistently hits the table. Food Chain Magnate. Got a game of it a month or 2 ago. It's one that I don't play often. Again, long game, very emotionally tiring to play it because of how much is going on, but I really, really enjoy it. We played it about a month ago or so, and I'm looking forward to diving back in. We just taught Quacklope, Jesse, the game, and I'm looking forward to diving back in with him for a full experience. A Fistful of Meeples is going to be a game by Johnny Pack Canton. I don't know who the publisher is. Oh no, it's going to be Final Frontier Games, I believe, is the publisher. I think they did it together with Coloma. They did it like, you can get both those games. But A Fistful of Meeples, I enjoy that one, played it a few times, eventually moved on from it because it's a little samey in the experience it's doing. Solid game. I think I gave it a 3 or 4, can't remember exactly. I never officially rated it, to be clear, but I've talked about it. But it's a game that I really liked, really enjoyed, but eventually moved on from it because the experience was a little Mancala, which I like, but a little samey, which I don't over time. Then we have Chaos in the Old World, somewhere over here, which is a game that we have played a few times in the past year. I kind of want to dive back into it with the Horned Rat expansion, which I have. It's a really solid game. I played the Horned Rat expansion like 4 or 5 years ago. I haven't played with the Horned Rat expansion since diving back into it. This past year, we got maybe 3 or 4 games of it in. Really enjoyed it. Introducing, it's one of those weird balances, especially with Quackalope being a more regular part of our game group. The dynamics have shifted and we've had to reteach certain games to get him acquainted with them. He hasn't actually played Chaos in the Old World yet. I don't think he has, but he probably should because it's a really good game. But either way, I want to play that one again. But yes, we are continuing to play Chaos in the Old World. And then finally, we have Spirits of the Wild, which is a game that even just this past week, not that's true, 2 weeks ago, even just past 2 weeks ago, we've been playing Spirits of the Wild. It's going back to my comment earlier about Herbaceous and how I have other set collection games that I enjoy. Spirits of the Wild is going to be an example of one of those other set collection games that I enjoy more. I like both of them, but Spirits of the Wild, at least as a 2-player experience, is my preference. It's one that is a little samey, so it does fall into that category of being something that's always on the fence that one day I'll look at and say, you know what, I've played this enough time, I've gone through the experience in enough different ways, and it's time to move on from. I don't think I'm there yet. I still really enjoy Spirits of the Wild. It's still a fun little mean set collection game where you're trying to gather these stones, these gems or spirit stones, whatever they are, from this center, from this bowl, before time runs out, before the game end triggers, and you're trying to lock in as many points as you go. It's almost certainly one that does not stay in my collection forever, but it's one that's still staying in my collection and still being played right now. That is going to be the year in review. That's all the games I reviewed in the past year, or not in the past year, a month ago, a year ago. I can't say this. This is all the games I reviewed last September. I can't do this. All the games I reviewed and played last September. There you go. That should officially do it. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good one.